Good afternoon. Welcome. I'm Emily Keeler. I'm the artistic director of the San Francisco Arts Education Project. We're so happy you could join us today. I want to welcome you to the opening of Zoe Farmer's exhibition, Bioexuberance, What Biology Has to Teach Us, Part 2. Zoe is an artist with a fascinating perspective on her work and on her teaching. We have been enormously lucky at SF Arts Ed to count her as part of our community for the last 6 years now, and her humanity and curiosity has enriched us all. She's interested in a wide range of materials, many of them sourced from the natural world and also sourced from nature are the themes she rigorously and beautifully explores: connectiveness, adaptation, and persona fluidity as a strength. We are so honored to have been the site of her 2 connected exhibitions at our Minnesota Street Gallery this last year. The second is currently up in the gallery, and the public will be able to either view it in person by making a reservation through our site, or to see it on our website and on the site at Minnesota Street Project, their adjacent website for the shows from their galleries in their space. Zoe is our first artist in residence in a new program we're instituting through our gallery. This program will enable us to support artist mentors in the community, giving them a space for exhibition and also giving them the gallery for a studio for exploration. Zoe did both. She worked on some of her own pieces on site in the gallery, also in her own studio, and chose to include work from her students from the schools earlier, before the shutdown, from her Zoomed summer classes, and finally through workshops with students Lily, Trisha, 2 Stellas, Agatha, Amalia, Milana, Parker, Audrey, Diego, who worked with her and several artists, including Natalie Green, Tirsa Nureyev, Pete Belkin, and myself. That group went on to make a film which was inspired by her ideas for her exhibitions, investigating phenomena in the natural world to do with flirtation and adornment. And since the work was made immediately after the shutdown, the notion of the poignant separation from the natural world also became a theme. I would now like to introduce you to Zoe Farmer.
Hey everybody, can you hear me okay? Good. Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and thanks so much for holding this event. I'm coming from a very unexuberant space in the background, so try and imagine I have beautiful flamboyant colours and nature happening in the background. So I didn't really know how to kind of proceed with this because there's so much work and ideas that has gone into the Exuberance show, and so many changes that have gone on over the course of the last kind of 8 months. But I thought, as with all kind of good starting points, one of the biggest influential factors to me, I guess, in kind of coming up with this show, which we were talking about a year ago when it first kind of came into fruition, came from this very meaty, chunky book here called Biological Exuberance. And it's by a biologist, and it takes a rather unusual look at many aspects of biology that you wouldn't normally see on your David Attenborough shows and other things that I kind of follow and love. But this takes a more exuberant look at just the sheer amount of diversity in the animal world. And as Emily was saying, sort of gender bending, crisscrossing, same-sex relationships and everything else. And it was kind of an eye-opener to me, I guess, and an inspiration to kind of make work from. And I'm sure lots of people are fairly familiar with the birds when you get the male birds that are often the most kind of flamboyant ones. And I kind of really enjoy that aspect of nature because it's kind of the opposite, I guess, in some ways to how we perceive ourselves in the human species. So taking a kind of a lead from that really. And my whole dissertation in my MFA was on kind of questioning the natural in nature. And I see Pete's just put a picture up on here now, which was very much dealing with that sort of flamboyant nature of the birds. And it has multiple kind of natural forms that I've collected over time, and these amazingly kind of colourful feathers that came from a parrot. And but it also is part kind of insect and part you can see the wings of the insect there, and part seed pod as well. So I think there's kind of this ongoing fascination with everything in biology kind of coming together as a whole and looking at the kind of interconnection and stuff of that. One of the pieces that also first rocked up, which is now in this show, it's like the second coming and the second decorator crab, is the piece that I titled Rebel Rebel. And I don't know, it's one of those kind of things in nature which is just kind of completely wonderful and funny and beautiful at the same time. And you have this creature that has evolved to adorn themselves and decorate themselves from their environment. And of course, I do adhere to the science that what the decorator crab is doing is trying to primarily dress itself in order to disguise itself in its natural environment. But because the crab is kind of pre-programmed by its DNA to dress up in anything that's in its environment, I kind of enjoyed offering it these very bright coloured pom-poms, which it diligently then kind of dresses up in. And to the point where it almost kind of ceases to be recognizable. But I think this very much to me was like about reclaiming the language from, I guess, some of the documentaries where you see many, like the way that narrators kind of anthropomorphize animals, and usually in a very kind of heteronormative way. So I kind of felt to subvert that a little bit and have this kind of drag crab, if you like, dressing up. And so I think when seeing it do it, and the way that Pete helped me edit the movie for Speeding Up, I couldn't help sort of seeing it kind of performing and actually drawing attention to itself, as opposed to kind of hiding in the shadows and actually kind of enjoying the attention and becoming ever more kind of flamboyant as it dresses up. And the title Rebel Rebel came from the David Bowie song, and I was just thinking, I'm trying to think of the main lyric in it, but it was had it written down somewhere. Oh, that's it. You got your mother in a whirl. She's not sure if you're a boy or a girl. And then the rebel, rebel. And it just kind of amused me that there was this crab who was just kind of like this sort of teenager, just kind of testing out sort of the boundaries of identity and dress up and stuff like that. So that's kind of what the crab was for me. And I think that was a huge kind of stepping off point for this show. It was a way of talking about something that was kind of serious, and certainly something that had kind of been part of my own life experience, but trying to kind of approach it in a humorous way. And when we first starting to kind of put this show together, when we met with the players to kind of find ways forward for them to kind of produce their own performance, I think the students actually saw this crab, and I think that behavior and way of being of the crab and some of the birds and things like that became very influential to the amazing piece that was made by all of our students and the other artist teachers on that piece. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about, because going back even further than that, I was thinking about how this kind of show has evolved. And there was the Zooplankton piece, which was actually produced in 2 schools. It was going to be 3 schools. It was 2 schools, and it was Guadalupe and Miraloma Elementary School. And originally the idea, one of the things that I'm super interested in is, as Emily was saying, like phenomena and phenomenal gatherings, and when nature kind of comes together to produce these kind of mass things. And that can be either in a positive way or in a more negative way, which we can talk about later. But this piece was always intended to be very much a celebration of diversity. And I think it was produced at a time just before the COVID kind of shutdown. And the conversations I was having with the children was just looking at very positive examples of biodiversity in nature. And then I guess by extension, all these individual children were making these planktons from their imaginations. Essentially, we looked at photographs, but most of them just became almost like these kind of mini amazing little quirky self-portraits. And that was produced in 2 schools. And then of course we went into shutdown. And originally the idea for this was just to expand and maybe have some kind of gallery openings where we could get the public to add to it and things. But we got quite a lot done. And then, of course, when we had some online teaching with the players as well, they also helped participate to build this piece even further. And it's absolutely gorgeous. I love it. I think it's one of my favorite things in the show from the visual arts pieces anyway. It's just, it really kind of captures the diversity, I guess, and that's what we were going for. Although initially we joked about the fact that because it happened kind of during shutdown that we couldn't help but see a few coronaviruses in amongst it, but the positive sentiment was certainly there. So that was another piece that kind of developed. And then I'm just trying to think what else. So one of the main things, so after the shutdown, I think we were kind of wondering whether we were going to be able to continue with the show and what that was going to do, because we didn't have a huge amount of work produced at that stage. And so Emily and I started talking, and she and Chad had come up with the idea of whether we enlist the help of our amazing players and whether or not they would be prepared to get involved in the visual arts as well as the performing arts and everything else. And so we went ahead with that, and we took the show online essentially to produce work, and the film obviously being one of them, and we'll have a look at that towards the end. But props were made with Tirza, and there are amazing props that are on display in the gallery there. And one of the pieces I thought that I took online with them as an idea for an install in the show, we titled Siphonophore. And I don't know if you guys know much about siphonophores, but they're like this is a very abstract image of a siphonophore, but the idea being that there's a sea creature, which is about one of the biggest sea creatures you can get, but it's really based around the idea of a jellyfish, I suppose, with multiple kind of tendrils and parts kind of hanging from it. And each of those individual parts that make up the whole body are like individual zooids. So everything kind of forms a very important function in a very successful organism that is all kind of linked together to be one kind of biological being. And it just seemed really appropriate as a piece to make whilst we were all kind of in isolation, making these cyanotype blueprints, using nature, using the sun, using our own body to produce the images on these kind of circular discs. And this idea that we weren't able to be together during the making of this piece, but when everybody brought the work into the gallery and dropped it off and we started to install it as a whole thing, it was almost like everybody kind of coming back together, or this collaboration that had occurred, having the opportunity to not only be made together online, but have an opportunity to be physically in a space together as one kind of functioning piece when, when we're not able to do that in person. So kind of, I guess that piece in a way moved away from the total exuberant nature and the celebratory, dancey, flamboyant aspect, and had some kind of a perhaps more serious kind of undertone to it. But I'm super pleased with how that looks. And as an artist who obviously identifies myself as an artist, I'm very much an educator. I can't now really separate my own work from the work that I do with the students. And I think this was probably the strongest example of that, because I think that's the first time when I actually had some of my own blueprints directly in with the students' blueprints in this kind of full collaboration that occurred in that piece there as well. And then I think lastly, in terms of pieces that I put into the show, and again, this was the Cephalopod Adaptions was probably the most recent piece. And interestingly, like everything was new over the course of this year. So everything's been produced whilst this year's been kind of occurring in my basement studio. And the Cephalopod Adaptions is a continuing fascination with all things oceanic, but in particular, like the love of the octopus. And I guess in looking at one of the words that we spoke about in the text for the show was this idea of biophilia, which was coined by a biologist, Edward O. Wilson. And he talks about this idea that we possess an innate tendency to seek connections with nature. And I think that's definitely so. I'm always looking to nature as a way to provide a narrative for the way that perhaps we are in the world or how we connect to it, etc. And I think that the octopus at the moment for me, has been many things for me, but I think at the moment it's this sort of defiance and kind of adaptability that it has to survive. And I think with COVID being on at the moment, the way that we've kind of have to shift direction and mold ourselves to adapt to the current situation, I kind of find these guys very inspiring on that. And the material that is used in this piece is the ink of cuttlefish, actually. So it's not the squid. Cuttlefish is more easily kind of gathered, and it has this really kind of jet black matte color to it. And then obviously using some kind of colored ink on the surface and using the bodies of the octopus to kind of manipulate and kind of animate across the whole piece. And the reason I think it's kind of the thing that I was looking at, I guess, was their ability to adapt in spite of climate change, in spite of the temperatures rising in the ocean, and as the shift of balance, as some species are very much kind of becoming extinct, some are adapting and doing really well. So one of the predictions for the future, if the seas continue to heat up, is that the octopi will continue to kind of develop more and more, and we're likely to see more and more of them in the ocean, which is probably not a good thing. It's an imbalanced kind of situation. But to celebrate that kind of resilience, because they are a species that is ordinarily considered to be a loner. They don't tend to kind of live in groups or anything like that. So really those are all the pieces, and I guess it's like a two-tier thing. One is this kind of flamboyant celebration of diversity with an idea originally of having it in the gallery for the opening of Pride Month. And then another is this idea of, as Emily was saying in the beginning, this kind of deep need to connect to nature, particularly in these times of kind of isolation and separation and kind of being indoors, but then also to kind of connect with each other and make amazing art projects. And I think I won't talk too much about the video because I know that there are other people online who will do a better job of talking about the amazing Exuberance video that was made by the players and Natalie Green, Pip Belkin and Emily Tirza. But I have to say, I think that one probably stole the show and kind of encompasses everything that the show's about. And I don't know, I could talk all day and go off on different tangents. I don't think I have a linear brain in that respect. And I guess that's why I'm a visual artist, but I hope that people will get to see the work and enjoy some of those things. And just thank you to all for all the support in putting this show together and allowing us the opportunity to make it a real situation. And I think that's it really. I think it'd just be over to any questions that people have on any of the pieces, and take it from there.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I have the image of the end of the video behind me, and I know that we're going to see a little bit of it. Also, we sadly don't have Natalie Green, who is our director on the project, but I think we might have Tirza with us. Is that true? If we don't, we do have a couple of the kids, and Pete, maybe you can spotlight them. I'd like to at least introduce them, and if they have anything to say about the project, it would be nice. I would say this, that the video didn't start out to be a video. The video started out, the movie, I should say, it started out to be a big performance. It was going to be a celebration of all these marvelous ideas that we had been inspired by to explore with kids. As I was saying, adornment and flirtation and sort of gender bending and things that were kind of very interesting for performance. We had talked to Minnesota Street Project, and we were going to take over the atrium, which is this enormous room downstairs of our gallery. And we had all these wonderful and kind of crazy ideas that the kids would become more and more adorned, much like the crab in the video that you just saw. And that it would be a way to just sort of celebrate these ideas in performance. And then we had a rehearsal at the space, and we were downstairs in the space, and we had some wonderful conversations, both with Zoe, with our director, Natalie, and then what happened. But I must say that this process, making this movie to respond to these ideas and making these objects to respond to this idea that Zoe is so interested in, was such an enlivening and life-affirming thing to be doing during the shutdown. And not only life-affirming, it affirmed something else that I think we deeply feel now more than ever, that what artists can do under really any circumstance is so important and powerful. And what we can do as artists with young people to help them be the expressive selves that they are is a really powerful thing. And I think that we learned so much in doing this. It really was the impulse for us to consider very closely, and then in fact doing our summer camp online, and now continuing with the players, making a movie with them that we will have done in March. So it was sort of an avatar for us. It was not something we knew how to do. We simply threw ourselves into it, as one would, and just did it with the great help of Tirsa, of Natalie, and certainly of Pete Belkin, who was our editor. But I do see that there are some of the kids here, and Pete, maybe you can spotlight them. We have Audrey, we have Lily, we have Parker, we have one of our Stellas, we have Stella Simmons here, and Trisha. So if they could be spotlighted, that would be terrific. Thank you. Hi. Thank you for coming on, you guys. I will ask any of you if you would like to, without pressure, say anything about the project. It would be great to hear what you have to say. And Parker, come up a little bit more on your screen so we can see your fantastic face. Thank you. Shall we start with Stella Simmons? Stella, would you like to say anything about the process and the themes that we worked with?
Sure. Hi, I'm Stella. I was with the players for 3 years before I did bioexuberance. Through the process of bioexuberance, we really talked a lot about the different animals and how they all sort of connect to each other and how everything sort of balances, where one thing affects another thing, affects another thing, affects another thing, how we're all connected. And really one of the main things we sort of focused on was sort of the art aspect of nature and the different colors and the different sounds and the different, well, you get it, all the different like things. And I really sort of had to pay attention and notice all the little details in nature and how it all sort of connects, I guess.
Miss Keeler, I think that you're muted.
Thank you. Trisha is our tech advisor at Players. Thank you, sweetie. Would you like to address any of these issues, the themes or the process?
Well, I just thought that this was a really good opportunity, and how, like as Stella said, how everything connects to each other, and how it may seem unreal how much it connects to each other, but it's real and it's life.
Thank you. Audrey.
Yeah, throughout this process, we did visual art, we did costume designing and making, we wrote poems, we also obviously had choreography and dance, and we also got to create our own choreography. And I think that was really cool because like throughout Bioexuberance, there's like this theme of like everything being connected. And then we brought all of these different aspects of art and connected them and created two really awesome final projects. So I really liked how the process kind of like connected to the theme of the project.
Thank you so much, Audrey. Thank you for what a very comprehensive description of the project. Thank you. Lily, may I call on you?
Sure. So I personally have never done anything like this before, and it was new, and I thought it was really cool the way we just took like more than one types of art and just created this brand new thing that was never seen before or heard of, and just got this two amazing final products. And I was just really proud of like how just an idea can like turn into something so different than anything else. And yeah.
Thank you so much. Parker.
Hello. I thought it was really fun that we got to kind of create our own costumes and our own pieces. And it was also a awkward experience and weird that we had to do most of it on Zoom.
Indeed. And now Parker is part of Players while we're making this movie. And Parker, do you feel that we learned something through Bioexuberance that we're taking into our work with Players? What do you think?
I'm actually not sure. But I feel like it's really weird because we're all doing Zoom and we have to like stare at a camera. I feel like that's kind of weird.
I agree. I agree. Thank you. Now, did I miss anyone? Oh, here's Agatha. Agatha, we're just having everybody weigh in about what their experience was with Bioexuberance.
Yeah, so I'm in the car, but I really liked it. I thought I mean,
Agatha, we're having a hard time hearing you. Try again.
something on both in school and with extracurricular theater, and that's how we found it. So art all together. So this was another kind of mixing pot of different art forms, which I really appreciated as well. So I liked it.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for coming. And thank you so much for your work. I think we're going to hear from our incredible editor, Pete Belkin.
I think you're on mute, Pete.
We can't hear you.
Thanks. Okay. So yeah, I'd love to say a few words about the process of working on the film and also working with you, Zoe, and everyone, all of the kids and just everyone that was involved. And I think that was one of the parts that really stuck out from the whole process was just really how collaborative it felt and how it felt like everyone was bringing, ideas to the table all throughout the week, and we're working together. And it, we started working on the film in the spring, in March, right as things kind of got the world turned upside down. And it was somehow strangely something that really, well, I really looked forward to all of the meetings, but also just kind of kept me going. And it was just a way to be able to continue making. And everyone was contributing, whether it was dance choreography, the cyanotypes, different, making in all kinds of different ways. But that I think was the important part, is that everyone was essentially trying to find a way to continue getting through this world by just continuing to make. And the process evolved, and working with also with Natalie, who really sort of drove the project in so many different ways, and Tirza and Zoe, and really feeling like everyone was contributing, but also in very, very completely different, not always overlapping ways, which is super exciting. And really driving the project forward, and also seeing all of the objects that were made, which we were eventually able to bring into the gallery space, which was super exciting. And it was really kind of a treat, because initially I had seen all of these works just as images or as on Zoom calls, just sort of things being made, and then we were able to actually look at them as bring them into the space and arrange them together, and also project the actual film large on the wall, and to bring everything together was a real treat. And the process of editing itself, it really felt like everyone sort of there was a very rhythmic sort of film, and it had a really kind of, the rhythm and the music really drove it. And it felt like everything just ended up falling into place. And yeah, it was super exciting. And once again, I really, the film was made, in the summer, and then the exhibition now in the fall has been really just such a positive thing to look forward to in the last few seasons. Yeah, I think that's what I can say. I'd love to show a little bit of the film. It'll take me a minute to cue it up from my other screen. And so I'll do that shortly. And I think a few words to also say just how we were able to really push the space in the film, in that there were all of these objects that were made, and there was also all of these installations which were created that really added to the sort of Zoom space that everyone had. And I think that was really exciting for everyone to think, how can we all sort of, okay, we're all sitting in front of our screens, we're all sitting in our in our homes, but how can we actually explore that space and push it further and create a sort of space within a space that we have, creative control over. That was really exciting to see.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Pete. Thanks, kids, so much. And Zoe, do you have any last words you'd like to leave us with?
I mean, I was just thinking back, because it's been so much has happened in the last 10 months. And it just occurs to me that seeing that video again, I mean, just like re-celebrating it, remembering how amazing it is, but just to think that we were sort of, I think there's been so many more videos that have been made since there, and people have adjusted and found their way to create performances from theatres and music halls online and stuff. But I got to say, I think we were up there as some of the first to take the technology head on and still produce something that was just fluent and just a wonderful finished kind of outcome. So just seeing it again a good few months later, into being on Zoom now that we're a bit more rehearsing it. I mean, it's such a polished thing for so early on, and just so impressed with it and to be a part of it, really. And then the only other thing I really thought to say was just about, I didn't speak much about when Pete and I went in and installed the show, and what a pleasure that was, just to be in a real space and putting the work up, and decided to leave the space very kind of open and airy. And if you guys do get an experience to go and see it in a safe manner, they take your temperature, and you can get your sanitizer, and there's plenty of space in the gallery. But if you can, go and see it, because your work looks absolutely stunning, and I think there's nothing like seeing it in the flesh if you get an opportunity. But I know things have sort of tightened up again, so I don't want anyone to put themselves at risk. But I'm so glad the work had an opportunity to exist in the place that it kind of deserves to be, because I feel like the gallery space and having that space is, you know, your work deserves to be shown off there in full public view. So well done, everybody. It looks amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I finally got a chance to go to the gallery, and I agree. If you guys can go and see your work there, it is beautifully hung. I've never seen the gallery look so interesting, honestly. It's just beautiful. And of course, the quality of your work and sort of the meaning of it, the themes of it. It's stunning. I agree. Go. And everybody who's on our show, go see it if you can. See it either on Adjacent at Minnesota Street Project on our website, sfartsed.org, or make an appointment and come see it at the gallery. Thank you so much to everybody. Thank you for coming. Zoe, thank you so much for this year, for your residency. It's been incredible.
Well, back at you guys, because what an experience for me to have the gallery for a second time around. And I feel like I'm just on a buzz for making work at the moment, and I fully put that down to having the opportunity to showcase the work, and not because of an ego, but just to see the work live and breathe. I can tell you that stinky octopus squid piece in my basement working on it is a very different experience when it's dried out and hung in a stunning kind of gallery wall. So it gives it space to show off the work, and that's been an amazing opportunity. So thank you.
You're welcome. Listen, I just get word that we have Tirsa with us, and that's great. Tirsa is a visual artist who is also a mentor with SF Arts Ed, and she worked on this project, helping the kids create the visual work that was both costumes and in some cases backgrounds for their performance. So I'm going to turn it over to her.
Hi there. Well, let's see here. I guess I'm obviously watching this presentation and reflecting on the experience of bioexuberance. I will agree with Zoe that I feel like we were quite fleet of foot in coming up with a way to keep to collaborate and make a piece of work with the lockdown happening. And I feel like we really did make something that was pretty original and really kind of out of nowhere. I mean, we had gotten together the one time at the gallery and had one rehearsal and talked about the concept, but I'm impressed and proud of the team that put it together, and also more so, but I'm really was impressed with the kids. Their ability to take on all of the aspects of this project, like I think Audrey explained, was really impressive. And I'm always so heartened by kids' resilience. And it was, it gave a lot of peace of mind through a difficult time. So I was really happy to be a part of the experience. And I'm looking forward to this new Zoom movie that we're making, which includes a lot of these kids. And this experience was really helpful to give us an idea of what was possible for that. So yeah, That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Tirsa. All right. I think we've heard from everyone that's here. I'm so honored and proud that we've been able to work with these young people, certainly with these tremendous artists, Tirsa and of course Zoe. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope to see you at the gallery when we're open, and have a nice evening.
Thank you guys. Bye. Nice to see everyone.